West End culture mean to me? It's my home. It's been my home for such a long time.
Weird community, I guess community.
It's food, ethnic foods.
Laid-back style.
A tight-knit sense of community.
It's probably diversity. Is probably the best word to start with.
There's like a vibe here that's different to the rest of the city.
Enjoying a little piece of Brisbane City that isn't a suburban nightmare.
One of Brisbane's earliest suburbs, West End is the cultural heartland of the city, housing a vibrant and energetic population fueled by their love of their community, food, music and the arts. During the early days of West End in the late 1800s, it was home to the working class citizens of Brisbane who worked in the local industries situated around the suburb. During the 20th century, West End saw a large influx of Greek migrant workers who assimilated into the area. These humble beginnings sparked a culture and community which allowed all sorts of diverse people to come together and live in harmony. With this in mind, it's not a surprise that corporate powers have been working increasingly harder over the decades to impose their massive high-rise developments in these areas, in an attempt to capture the vibe and essence of West End for themselves. This effort, however, is futile. What these developers don't realise is the things they're attempting to gain from West End culture are the very things which corporate developments would interrupt entirely. The proposed developments are the following.
Big developments like this one on the former Applepie site are going to have a pretty significant impact on West End's cultural landscape, in large part because they change the availability of these spaces for certain demographics. So by that I mean that some of these developments aren't particularly affordable. A lot of the housing here is going to tend towards the expensive end of the market, which means that poorer residents aren't going to be able to live in these new apartments, and similarly poorer or lower income people aren't going to feel comfortable hanging around in these spaces because they're designed for a certain demographic. The way those spaces operate, the way they're policed and regulated, tends to discourage some uses and encourage other uses.
We've got an opportunity here with a very large site in the middle of our community, which is close to the centre of the city, to do something really, really good. What we're getting here though is something that's really, really bad.
It definitely pushes people out, marginalises people, makes rent more expensive, takes away the community that West End really is. The Boundary Street markets have just been like a heartland of West End for so long that, it's such a shame that they're putting buildings up there. I really don't think it's cool.
I've been doing this for 5-6 years now, and I've noticed that the demographic is changing. The investors that are buying into the area are attempting to have a piece of what they see as local bohemia, but in doing so they're essentially diluting the essence of the area.
They just closed down the markets a week early, which screws over so many stallholders, which is not a way to win the community over at all. Like, they're building an idiot village, because for people who don't live here, come and buy into a space to have that West End lifestyle that don't know anything about.
We want our community to develop into a community, more of a community, instead of somewhere to buy and sell property.
And they're going to be one and two bedroom apartments for who? Nobody, because no one will be able to afford it.
And it's ironic because our governments are representatives of us, and they seem to be acting in the interests of somebody else.
So a whole bunch of residents have decided that on Wednesday night or Wednesday afternoon we're going to have a big community picnic on Boundary Street, and the idea is going to be to make visible the fact that actually that green public space at the front of the site is privately controlled, and now the developers have fenced it off. So if we can't have the community picnic on the grass, we're going to have it along the front footpath and see what happens. I think we had like 2 or 3 days notice for this thing, and the fact that so many people showed up
it really shows that there's a strong community sentiment against what's happening here, and I'm really excited because for me this is just one small action on one day that's about building a broader narrative and I guess broader capacity, and what I hope will happen is that over the next few days and weeks people will talk to their friends and neighbours. You'll explain why you're concerned about this, but more importantly you'll explain what you'd like to see there instead. That's the really important thing, that we're not seen to just be saying, no, we're not happy about this. We want to say, yes, we do want development on this site. We do want affordable housing. We do want space for small businesses. We do want space for music and art and community spaces and open green space. And if we articulate a vision that is realistic and positive, that will give us the credibility. It's not just, oh, no, they're NIMBYs who are afraid of high rises. It's no, we have a serious alternative.
I'd like to see the newer developments include a lot more affordable housing, so that's housing where people on lower incomes can rent it out for lower rates, and I'd also like to see a bit more public housing in the area. High density is great, but you also need open green space so that the city can breathe. It's really tricky to work out what the best way to affect positive change in this sort of issue is, because it seems like increasingly the government doesn't listen to ordinary residents unless we make the case really, really strongly. So it's no longer enough just to write submissions and sign petitions. We actually have to take direct action. So that can sometimes look like organising around the apparatus of the state, so finding creative or innovative ways to do things without necessarily getting co-opted by the market system. But it can also just mean getting in their way and saying, look, if you're not going to listen to us, we're going to keep making life difficult for you until you come back to the negotiating table. And I think increasingly people are doing more of that sort of stuff.
Thank you so much for coming.